Taylor Swift's wedding guest list reportedly included roughly 1,000 people, but the celebrities missing from Madison Square Garden have become almost as heavily discussed as the stars who attended. Now, several of those absent names have explained what happened. Some received invitations but had work commitments. At least one declined because he generally avoids weddings. Others joked that they were never invited. And in several of the most talked about cases, there is still no verified explanation at all. That distinction matters because Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's July 3rd wedding quickly produced two very different stories. One was the confirmed celebration inside Madison Square Garden. The other was an expanding online debate over who was not photographed entering the building and what those absences supposedly meant. The central question is no longer simply who missed the wedding. It is which explanations come from the celebrities themselves, and which remain assumptions built around an incomplete guest list. For verified entertainment updates without the rumors, subscribe to Startline Entertainment. The wedding itself is established. Reuters reported that Swift and Kelce married on July 3rd in a garden-like setting constructed inside Madison Square Garden. Guests described personalized vows, a performance by Stevie Nicks, and an atmosphere that felt intimate despite the size of the arena. Swift's team confirmed that the couple wore Christian Dior, although Reuters noted that no official wedding photographs had been released at that point. Reuters also reported that more than 1,000 people were believed to have been invited. Celebrities publicly spotted around the venue included Selena Gomez, Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, Bradley Cooper, Gigi Hadid, Paul McCartney, Gracie Abrams, Jason Sudeikis and Hugh Grant. But neither Swift nor Kelce has published a comprehensive verified guest list. That means a person not appearing in arrival photographs cannot automatically be classified as uninvited. That is the first important correction to the wider conversation. Did not attend, was not photographed, declined an invitation, and was not invited are four different claims. Only a portion of the famous names connected to this story have publicly clarified which category applies to them. The newest confirmed explanation came from Shania Twain. In an interview shared on July 13th, Twain said Swift had invited her, but she was already committed to appearing during Harry Styles' Wembley Stadium run in London. Twain said she would have loved to attend and explained that the performance commitment had already been made. Her situation is therefore not an inferred conflict or a rumored falling out. It is a directly acknowledged invitation, followed by a confirmed scheduling problem. The timing also explains why Harry Styles was absent. People reported that Styles was performing at Wembley during the wedding weekend, while Zoe Kravitz attended the New York celebration without him. The schedule establishes where Styles was, but it does not, by itself, establish whether he personally received an invitation. That part has not been publicly confirmed. Ryan Seacrest offered another clear account. On the July 6th edition of his radio show, Seacrest said he had received a confidential invitation and initially planned to attend. He then accepted hosting duties for Disney's 4th of July programming in Nashville, creating a direct conflict on July 3rd and July 4th. Seacrest said he tried to determine whether both commitments were possible before canceling his wedding plans. That explanation is particularly useful because it shows why attendance should not be treated as a simple measure of friendship. Seacrest was invited, accepted, and still did not appear at Madison Square Garden. His absence reflected a professional obligation rather than a public dispute with the bride or groom. Singer-songwriter James Taylor also confirmed that he and his wife had been invited. He was performing with his band at Tanglewood in Massachusetts during his traditional Independence Day weekend engagement. From the stage, he acknowledged the competing wedding invitation and offered the couple his good wishes. Once again, the public record points to a long-standing professional commitment, not personal tension. Charles Barkley's reason was different. Barkley said he received an invitation but declined it because he generally does not attend weddings or funerals and preferred spending the time playing golf. Although he used characteristically blunt language while describing the scale of the celebration, he also said he appreciated the invitation and expressed affection for Travis and Jason Kelce. His non-attendance was deliberate, but his public comments do not support framing it as hostility toward the couple. Robert Pattinson also supplied a work-related explanation for being elsewhere. Entertainment Weekly reported that Pattinson was in London for professional commitments connected to a premiere and filming. Suki Waterhouse attended the wedding without him. Pattinson later joked about missing some of the prizes reportedly offered during the celebration. His work schedule is publicly supported, although his precise invitation status has not been independently disclosed. Those are the most clearly explained no-shows. Twain, Seacrest, James Taylor, and Barkley all publicly indicated that invitations existed. Pattinson publicly accounted for his location, though the invitation itself remains less clear. That evidence is very different from the category of celebrities whose names appeared because observers merely expected them to attend. Mark Hamill openly addressed his own absence with a joke. He congratulated the newlyweds and wrote that he had declined for several personal reasons, mainly because he had not been invited. The post was comedic, but it still provided a direct answer. Hamill was not presenting himself as an offended guest who had been removed at the last moment. He was making light of the public tendency to expect every famous person to appear at an enormous celebrity wedding. Amy Schumer took a similar comic approach. As formal-looking wedding photographs began circulating, Schumer jokingly posted images suggesting that she and Michael Cera were participating in the festivities. There is no reliable public evidence that Schumer was actually expected to attend. Her posts functioned as commentary on the scale of the media attention rather than confirmation of an invitation. Former NFL player Will Compton was more direct about not receiving an invitation. While traveling in Italy, he joked on a podcast that he was surprised by some of the people who appeared on the guest list when he had not been included. He later congratulated Swift and Kelce publicly. His comments conveyed disappointment, but they do not establish a feud or a permanent break in his relationship with Kelce. A related rumor involved the New York Knicks. Reports circulated before the wedding claiming that the team's starting lineup had been invited because the ceremony was being held on its home court. Josh Hart publicly called that claim false. The absence of Knicks players therefore was not evidence that confirmed invitees had backed out. The underlying invitation report itself was disputed. New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani also said publicly that he would not be attending and offered the couple good wishes. His comments confirmed his non-attendance, but did not reveal that he had accepted and canceled an invitation. This is another case where the safest wording is simply that he was not there, not that he rejected, lost, or was denied a place on the guest list. Then there are the expected names whose work schedules offer plausible context but not complete answers. Katy Perry performed at France's Main Square Festival on July 3, creating an obvious conflict with a wedding in New York. John Legend was reportedly touring in Europe with his family. Lana Del Rey publicly described spending the holiday weekend with friends. Those details explain where they were, but none should automatically be transformed into proof that each person received an invitation and turned it down. Kelly Clarkson is another example. She and Swift have a friendly public history connected to Clarkson's earlier suggestion that Swift re-record her catalog. But People's Roundup acknowledged that it was unclear whether Clarkson had been invited. Friendship, professional admiration, or a memorable public interaction does not create documentary evidence of a wedding invitation. The same caution applies to Oprah Winfrey. Her name appeared partly because she has attended other prominent weddings and interviewed Swift early in the singer's career. That history may explain why readers imagined seeing her at Madison Square Garden, but it does not prove that she was included in this event's plans. The Kardashian family's absence has also been interpreted through the history between Swift, Kim Kardashian, and Kanye West. People's article reasoned that their well-known past conflict made an invitation unlikely, but there has been no public guest list statement from Swift or Kelce confirming why the family was absent. Calling it a deliberate wedding ban would go beyond the available evidence. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were also not at the ceremony. People had reported before the wedding that they would not attend, despite public speculation involving William and Swift. A later report suggested that the royal couple may have met Swift and Kelce during an earlier visit to England. The palace has not provided a detailed public account explaining the wedding decision, so their absence should not be framed as a rejection or diplomatic statement. The two names creating the most speculation were Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. They were not publicly seen at the wedding, and people reported that they were in Lake Placid while one of their children participated in a horse show. The outlet connected their absence to earlier reporting that Swift and Lively had taken space from one another amid Lively's legal dispute with Justin Baldoni. But here is the line that should not be crossed. Neither Swift, Lively, nor Reynolds has publicly stated that the wedding absence was caused by that reported strain. The fact that an earlier friendship issue had been reported does not prove that it determined an invitation decision months later. The responsible conclusion is that Lively and Reynolds were absent and that the reason has not been officially confirmed. Miles Teller and Keely Sperry occupy a similar category. They had a visible connection to Swift's circle and were not reported among the wedding guests. People referenced a TMZ claim about differences in lifestyle, but also acknowledged that the reason for their absence was unclear. Unless one of the people involved addresses it directly, that alleged rift should remain labeled as reporting, not established fact. This pattern is what makes the story more complicated than a list of famous names. A large portion of the roundup is not composed of people who publicly said, "I was invited and did not go." It includes former friends, professional acquaintances, public supporters, royal figures, athletes connected to the venue, and celebrities whom fans simply associated with Swift or Kelce. The most meaningful updates came from the people who spoke for themselves. Shania Twain was working in London. Ryan Seacrest was hosting in Nashville. James Taylor had his traditional Tanglewood engagement. Robert Pattinson was working overseas. Charles Barkley chose not to attend. Mark Hamill and Will Compton said they were not invited. Each explanation tells a different story, and none requires inventing private conflict. The public response also reveals something about the scale of this wedding. When an event includes approximately 1,000 guests and still produces headlines about everyone who was absent, expectations have moved beyond an ordinary private celebration. The guest list became a public map of relationships, even though the couple never presented it as one. Here is the start line takeaway. What changed after the wedding was not evidence of one enormous celebrity falling out. What changed was that individual explanations began replacing speculation. Several absences that might initially have looked meaningful turned out to involve ordinary scheduling conflicts. Other famous names had never confirmed an invitation in the first place. The timing matters because the latest update from Shania Twain reinforces that point. Her inability to attend had nothing to do with hidden tension. She had already committed to a major performance overseas. Seacrest and James Taylor describe similarly straightforward conflicts. Their statements are a reminder that even a high-profile invitation does not erase concerts, broadcasts, filming schedules, or personal preferences. Viewers should therefore be cautious with words such as snubbed, excluded, cut off, or banned. Those terms imply a confirmed decision and often a motive. In most of the cases drawing attention, neither the decision nor the motive is publicly documented. The verified summary is this. Swift and Kelce married at Madison Square Garden on July 3 before a large gathering of family, longtime friends, entertainers, and athletes. Twain, Seacrest, James Taylor, and Barkley publicly confirmed invitations but did not attend for different reasons. Hamill and Compton indicated that they were not invited. Several others were working elsewhere. And for Lively, Reynolds, the Tellers, and a number of other expected names, the real invitation status or reason for their absence remains unclear. Unless Swift and Kelce release a complete guest list, which they may never do, the remaining gaps should stay gaps. The next meaningful development will not come from another theory based on an arrival photograph. It will come only if one of the people involved decides to clarify the story publicly.